Okay, so today, the new Netflix show Space Force just came out, and I am really excited for it, but also really terrified because I have seen some early reviews and they don't look great, but I still have hope that it's gonna be good. I have been unreasonably hyped for this show to come out. It has, like, so many people I like working on it. Hopefully, it's good. Space Force is kinda disappointing. Does that mean it's as bad as the critics say? No. It's just that this show had so much going for it. It has an extremely talented cast, a massive budget for a sitcom, and was created by Steve Carell and Greg Daniels, two comedic legends. Greg Daniels has created some of the greatest sitcoms of all time, and Steve Carell, I mean, come on, Steve Carell. But what I'm trying to say is, this show had a lot of advantages, but in the end, it still ended up being just okay. But what went wrong here? What went right? And how can this show improve when it inevitably gets greenlit for another season? Well, thankfully, the most important part about any TV show is also the best part about Space Force: its characters. The characters are this show's strong suit, and all the actors do a mostly great job. Steve Carell, while good as General Nerd, feels like he's desperately trying to distance himself from Michael Scott. However, the show does have some moments where Steve Carell can just let loose, and when he does, he's genuinely fun to watch. But oftentimes, this goes against the kind of character they've set up for him. So in one episode, you'll have a disciplined 4-star general, and then the other episode, you'll have an almost Michael Scott-esque idiot boss. But the show more than makes up for it with the sheer amount of chemistry the cast has with each other. The main frenemies dynamic between General Nerd and Dr. Mallory carries the show. While I may find his delivery a bit tough to take seriously at times, I still think John Malkovich was perfect for the role of Dr. Mallory, and it's clear that he and Steve Carell loved working together.
Yes. The first week, I knew we were going to get along great because he could not stop laughing at a fart joke.
The side characters also do pretty well in their roles. I'm a big Ben Schwartz fan, and naturally, he does not disappoint here. Also, I just want to take some time here to say that if you haven't seen his improv specials with Thomas Middleditch on Netflix, they're hilarious. I highly recommend them. Jimmy O. Yang is also great as Dr. Chan, and his perfectly dry comedic delivery turns otherwise okay jokes into legitimate knee slappers. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but they're funny, okay?
I heard you know some shit about plants.
Let's see. I'm an astrobotanist with an advanced degree in cross-pollination and dry terrain root systems.
What does that mean?
I know some shit about plants.
However, Chan does have a strangely out-of-place romantic relationship. I don't even know if I should call it a romance, with another character named Angela. And while the two do have chemistry, it's set up like they just have a buddy-type relationship. But then the two kind of confess their love for each other, but it felt really half-baked and wasn't set up properly at all. But at the very least, they do actually seem to like each other, even if it's not in the way the show thinks it is. The interactions between characters are fantastic. Each episode shuffles up two random side characters to have them go off and do their own thing. However, this can be seen as both a good thing or a bad thing. On one hand, it's great to see the amazing cast interact with each other in different scenarios, but on the other, just one episode isn't enough to fully flesh out and develop any kind of relationship between two characters. Look at any other big ensemble comedy like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Community. Almost every episode gives all the characters something to do, and thus they all feel fully fleshed out and real, unlike Space Force, which just focuses on the main two. So yeah, the show has a fantastic cast with some charming characters, but ultimately doesn't use them to their fullest. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the characters. Oh. We'll get to you later. In regards to filmmaking, Space Force is quite unique compared to other similar shows. It's shot and edited like a real movie, and thus looks quite nice. However, while it looks pretty, it never does anything beyond that. There aren't many moments of interesting cinematography or noteworthy editing. It just looks different. But while the filmmaking itself isn't too interesting, it's clear that the show used its time and resources for other things. CGI is, dare I say, gorgeous. They use it relatively sparingly, so in more CG-heavy scenes, they knock it out of the park. Not to mention the fantastic set design that blends perfectly with the CG. I think this big budget movie-like approach to a sitcom could actually be really interesting. But, at least right now, even with the amazing production value, it's just not as good as it could be. For a comedy, the jokes in this show are strangely scarce. When you look at other Greg Daniels shows like Parks and Rec or The Office, each episode is jam-packed with jokes. Hell, most of the time, the premises for the episodes are jokes in and of themselves. We only ever really get a taste of this in Space Force, with the most obvious example being the episode where they have to get a chimp to fix a satellite. But most of the time, it plays it relatively seriously. But hey, quality matters a lot more than quantity, so when the show does have jokes, are they good? Alright, look, this is a show made by funny people, so naturally they're gonna be fun to watch. However, there's one thing that the show can't seem to get right, and that's political humor. The show feels held back by its political commentary. It ends up in this weird limbo between being a commentary on current events or not making jokes about it so it's timeless. Space Force can't seem to decide what it wants to do, so it'll end up feeling dated within only a couple of years. In fact, it might already be dated now. I think in later seasons, they should really try to pick a lane in regards to that, as well as focusing more on being a comedy first and foremost.
But space is hard.
That's what she said.
Alright, ready to hear me really complain? My biggest problem with Space Force is the story. The show isn't really like most other Netflix joints, in that it's not really meant to be binged. Now, this on its own isn't really a problem. However, the issue is that the show fails to keep any consistency in between episodes. Characters grow and make relationships that virtually just get forgotten about one episode later, and the ones that don't still get dropped for a while before it coming back. One of the only things that actually stays consistent throughout the season is... yeah, I guess you gotta talk about it now. So each episode usually has around 2 things going on. The main plot with Nerd and the gang, and the subplot with Nerd's daughter, Erin. Now, my issue isn't with the acting or anything, it's all fine. It's just that these scenes always bring the show's momentum to a grinding halt. They keep switching from scenes with Nerd and the gang trying to save an entire mission, to scenes with her and this guard from Alabama making googly eyes at each other. And I wouldn't be this angry if it tied back into the show in any way, but it never does. It just feels like it's there to prolong the show's runtime and nothing else. In summary, the show has a less than stellar plotline and a major subplot problem that needs to be fixed. Now, I know I've dogged on this show for a while now, but in all honesty, I still think it has a lot of potential. I think a lot of people forget that other Greg Daniels shows like The Office or Parks and Rec weren't exactly smash hits in their first seasons, with some going as far as saying that the first season of The Office was just straight up bad. But now, both of those shows are considered classics. Now, am I saying that Space Force is gonna be the new Office? No. But if Netflix does want their own workplace sitcom like The Office, I think Space Force still has a pretty good shot at being that. And when that second season does come out, you can bet I'll be right there to watch it. And now I can finally be done with this freaking video. Oh my god!